Streaming multiple. So we're live right now. Welcome to the Lorcana Cross
Nice.
Continental Challenge. I am Luke Wonderland, and I'm here with Zach Stone. Introduce yourself. Talk about yourself. We got time to spare.
How's it going, guys? Zach Stone from Lorcana Goons. You know us for the market watches, meta reviews, and deck profiles. And I'm here to cast an amazing game. We have DeCandio versus Kawa. And this is a matchup that I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to play out. DeCandio's list, as we all know, is the Diggity Diggity Hole deck, the Amber Steel, I would say aggro. Would you call it more of an aggro deck, Luke?
Yeah, I would say this is aggro. We don't have a whole new world anymore, so we're just going all in on the Dock and Rapunzel as our cantrips, and then the reusability, like the virtual card advantage, you could say, of Lilo being able to come back over and over again.
Exactly. And the Calhoun is, I think, going to really be a problem early on. I know that they can't remove it with Under the Sea by itself. Muses can't bounce it back, which I'm expecting to really show a lot in Kawa's deck for this matchup. And yeah, we're actually getting getting started here on the games, I believe.
Here shortly, we can chat for just a few more moments while I get it set up. Do do do. Oh, oh. Let's see. Let's the logo. Hmm. We'll do this one and we will adjust it on the fly because why not? Oh, let's actually let's be smart about it. I was doing it in a much more difficult way to adjust.
This match specifically.
Oh, well, they heard you in the other scene, but I just unmuted you right now. So you can say all that again if you really want to. Um, it's not an early morning stream without at least one difficulty, and if it is only 20 seconds of us not hearing you, then that is way better than last week's not having audio the entire time. So let's be happy about that.
No worries. But yeah, I was just mentioning to anyone that wasn't able to hear me, Kawa has his own face in the frame, and he's been the only player to I think do that for this whole tournament. So you get to see that
Sailor did
physical
too,
reaction. Oh, say that is right. That's
and
right.
yeah.
So it's nice because seeing like the physical reaction to what's going on, I think adds a little bit more to the match itself, and I can't
And
wait to see these opening hands we have. Oh gosh.
they play into it because they know that their opponent can't see it, so they're gonna overact, and it's gonna add makes for some very cool scenes. That is a lot of Rapunzels.
Yeah,
I
so
have
not what you're looking for at all. Ones and twos seem to be where I want to be in my Ember Steel deck, and so we see him send back five and find I think what we were looking for: a one drop, a two drop, and we had the Lawrence that we kept. The mine I think is always a keep in this deck. It's very important to your strategy. Did we see Kawa's cards?
I don't. I think he mostly kept them down, or I got distracted by realizing that their nameplates were on the opposite sides of where they were, so I had to fix that really quickly.
It's all good. Like I said, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We're gonna get through it. But right now, Kawa's starting to. Oh no, we're looking at his opening hand. I think he already mulliganed.
Yeah. A couple bare necessities is not fantastic, but if he does play one, he might actually hit the mine. Because it's unlikely that DeCandio is going to ink it,
Exactly. All
but
right.
he might actually play it next turn. He has the happy, so if he goes turn two mine, turn three, he can play happy and shoot something for two, and that's an interesting play against most decks, but not actually that good against Kawa's deck in general. I mean, we do get to see multiple Sir Hisses, which mine would be quite good against, but cards like Ursula and Muses, it doesn't really do anything.
Right. And then the Daisy Duck is going to quest first, and this is very important to make sure you get some information before you make some decisions, right? And inking the strength, which is I love doing this against Emerald decks. You really don't want the songs. You're really just trying to give less discard value to the discard deck. And on Kawa's next turn, it doesn't really get much better for him. It's another inkable, so he can kind of play with a lot of his hand, but he's not going to be able to do much here. He can decide to play the Ursula or the Sir Hiss, or like you mentioned, that bare necessities to potentially rip out that mind. And
Yeah,
he goes with the Sir Hiss.
I was gonna say it's unlikely that we see bare necessities because you'd probably just play the Ursula over it, and then Ursula loses its value when we look at the fact that he's already inked one song. So it shows that DeCandio is aware of how important it is for Ursula to come down, and you normally only see the Rage get inked like that in anticipation of an Ursula, because otherwise you keep it because it's huge, right? But against these Emerald decks, if you can't sing it right away, you have to ink it. Unless you have multiple, then can afford to keep both. And then if they don't have the Ursula, you get rewarded. If they have the Ursula, then you have to either play or ink it the next turn because they know you have another one. So they're either going to play a secondary or it turns on the bare necessities.
Exactly. And then this is not a steel song deck, so the amount of songs is a lot less, and it's going to really make a difference here because we're going to see early on that DeCandio will be able to be out ahead aggressively, but we saw Daisy give Kawa the aerial singer, and that's going to be hard to deal with. And he's already inked a couple Brunos, and it might have been better just to maintain those ones for the time being. But we'll
So
find out if the aerial gets another song here.
so it's an interesting play here that DeCandio is aware that Kawa's answer, his most common removal is under the sea, right? That's like the thing he's afraid of. So he's inking the Lilos, being like, the recurability is unlikely because if they answer it, it's gone, right? It's on the bottom. But we see a sudden chill in Kawa's hand. And when you go down to two cards, there's a high chance that they might pull the trigger on a sudden chill or two. And keeping a Lilo in your hand over, say, a Lawrence could end up like having a pretty big impact here. And that's the second Lilo that DeCandio's inked as well. So like he doesn't really have, he's losing out on that virtual advantage, even though it might not matter. And we kind of noticed that he's also just not drawn any of the card draw. Like his starting hand had the three Rapunzels, but that's not, you don't want to keep Rapunzel in your starting hand. That's a top deck card draw source, not a play two card draw source.
These are very excellent points, Luke. And I personally, I played not this version of Amber Steel, but Amber Steel Song, and it's kind of important to recognize that Lilo is very good discard fodder. I'm a huge fan of this card and a huge fan of a lot of the cards from Azurite Sea. The the song revealed off the aerial was "Painting the Roses Red," and I'm curious to see what Kawa's thinking here. Um, I don't know. That sudden chill looks really good, but he might be thinking about playing the bear. What do you think? What do you think's going on?
Oh,
Plays it. Plays the bear.
I wonder if just seeing Happy come into play was enough for him to be like, oh, mine could be scary. I should play Bare Necessity.
Hey, your Twitch didn't start yet. I don't know if
It is a 10
it's
minute delay.
yeah. Let them know. I think they're kind of asking. Okay, there we go.
Did it
So
just
yeah,
start?
yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
like 45 seconds. Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure. Yep, it says
Yeah.
session 54, but it just popped up. That was interesting.
Okay. All right. So right here. Okay. So nothing's changed. There we go. So yeah, bare necessities, and I I'm I'm sure that the thoughts going on right now in Kawa's head is that there had to be something else going on. There's also a world where there's a dock in there and you're just emptying out the hand to be able to get maximum dock value. So it's interesting to actually see the bear being played there too.
So
Could be stuck
he
with a song in his hand.
he also has the sudden chill, right? So if he starts with two cards in hand, he's trying to get lucky. He's like, well, if he has a song or that, then I can knock both his hands out. So it's just like
Exactly.
boom, hot, right? That's one reason he could be doing it. He could be doing it because he saw the happy and was like, oh my, like mine's actually not great for me here. Um, it's
Right.
uh, it's interesting. I mean, this Bare Necessities is so good. It knocked out DeCandio's camera. Like it's hitting the mine, and then we're gonna see the Sun Chill played, and it's gonna knock out the last card. It's it's
it's
it's
it,
brutal.
it's it's very powerful. Like it ripped the power cord straight from the back of Candio's computer, and look at that, it took out Kawa's himself as well. We might be seeing an adjustment here going into the troubleshooting process. So if you guys are just joining us, we had Kawa on his, I would say, his third turn, and he was on the draw, and the bare necessities is being sang by a Sir Hiss, and with Beta Candio's two cards in hand is the Seven Dwarves Mine and the Lawrence. The board for DeCandio is like four characters, pretty small ones, and we're coming back right now. Hopefully, we have our issues solved. But if you guys are just joining us, that's what's going on current right now.
So we can look at the lists while we get things figured out. Um, we don't know how long this will take, but worst case scenario, we can always just directly watch the cameras.
Right. And shout outs to our judge staff for really holding it down for this event. Leo and Phil, you guys are awesome. Phil's from our local Southern California community, and he's an excellent part of crowdsourcing data and getting all the information shared on our, weekly local events and set championships. So shout outs to Phil. And if you guys aren't aware, I'm talking about the IE Enchanted. It is live, and I believe the website is just ie-enchanted.com. So just make sure if you're in the local SoCal area, or if you plan on making a big Disneyland trip during Continentals, give us a little peek to that to see what's going on in case you're looking to play at some LGSs in our area.
I heard my phone. While we wait for that for a second, I'm gonna make sure my child doesn't have my cell phone.
Of course. So yeah, we're just having a little bit of technical issues. We are on a 10-minute delay. So to those all watching and to those that are here with us still, go ahead and leave a prediction down below of who you think is going to win. And yeah, I actually I have my own feed of the game right now, and I can tell you what's happening. But the bare necessities did resolve and discard B. DeCandio's Seven Dwarfs Mine. And we're still on Kawa's turn. So if you're able to view the stream, here we go. Perfect. We didn't skip a beat. So as just as where we picked off, the bare necessities it did discard the
Oh,
Seven
he
Dwarfs
didn't.
Mine, and it's
Oh,
going
he
back.
just had to play the aerial. Okay, he had just played aerial. So he was not able to also play the Sudden Chill to get the last card. That's unfortunate.
Correct. Yeah, no, it wasn't able to be played. Happy trades into Sir Hiss quite well here. And you're going to see Piglet and Smee go in for the quest. Lawrence gets played, and there is no damage because that Piglet's a captain. And that's something that people will have to remember if you're playing the combination here. The captain classification here is going to prevent the damage on Smee. And Kawa's next draw, can't see it yet, but
So
curious.
I think DeCandio's hand cam is broken, which would be the only reason why his card is face down.
Agreed.
So we're gonna lose half sight.
That's fair. That's fair. But it's an interesting because we're
Oh,
just
or
looking
maybe
from there we go. It's
I
the
don't know
daisy.
how we saw it or what it was from. Maybe his hand sight isn't broken.
That's a good point. So, do you expect Kawa to sing a song here?
Mm,
He has to, right? Because there's a lot of lore on the board. Something's got to give.
no, I don't think he will. Um,
Well, no,
maybe. Hold
that's
on. One,
that's
two,
going to
three,
be
four,
lethal.
five, six. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Actually,
have to.
yes, he has to. I had to count really quick. I was like, oh no, he's got the dub in hand, right? But
No,
yeah,
no,
he's
no.
gonna
We
have
got.
to. Yep,
And then this is what I thought what he would do too. Sudden chill. It's
and
going to
bounce
discard
piglet.
Daisy, bounce Piglet. Exactly. Um, you want that
I
Daisy to
assume
give
it's
you more
bounce piglet.
cards. You want that Daisy to give you more cards. There's no way you don't bounce the Piglet. It's ink, but who cares? It's representing 3 lore. Gives you an extra turn. He's gonna have to respect Under the Sea as well. So there will be a trade. We're gonna see Lawrence or Smee come in to remove this aerial, and that has to happen. I don't think you can disrespect Under the Sea here. If I were DeCandio,
It's
and of course,
interesting how like he has to hit Kita.
yeah, and that is 100% true. Nikita had to have okay.
Ooh wee.
He drew Rapunzel
Ooh wee, that's good.
like a Amber Steel goon
Like a
himself
professional.
would do is draw Rapunzel off the top of the deck. And I think that's the writing on the wall here. We're going to see this game go BD Candio 1-0. If you're just joining
I think
us,
so.
we saw a early start from BD Candio that is carrying his victory here. Kawa, I
So
believe, is dead to rights.
so we can challenge the Lauren. No, that takes our character down. So we can challenge the Smee and then play Storm. Oh, the Storm is in. I was like thinking DeCandio or Kawa had the Storm in his hand. I was like, we can deal 2 damage to the Lawrence and then bounce it. It's like, no. We're not playing Emerald Steel. We're playing Emerald Amber. Yeah,
If you
I don't know
needed
what we
to,
can
you can
do.
reduce Lawrence's strength, challenge it, and then try to
But we can't bounce it because then
bounce.
the
Yeah, it's
we have to do this first.
okay. So he's probably gonna hit Smee and Lawrence.
Yeah, and bounce the
He drew
daisy.
another bear,
Maybe.
but he's only at
Yeah.
5 ink. He's only at 5 ink, right? He already played
Yeah,
two.
he's
There's no
not in a
one
good
cost
spot.
songs. No, not at all. This is
Has
it's
he
rough.
did ink already?
He did. He inked the Ursula, so he could
Okay.
play Bare Necessities here. We'll rip the Storm Rage and then bounce the Rapunzel,
Well,
challenge into Smee.
oh. Hmm.
Such a bad spot, man. Such a bad spot.
I don't think there's any way you could like get your way out of this.
you can just slow the bleed here, right? He's going to be able to bounce Rapunzel, and
Probably bounces
the
the
muses
Smee.
can then
Maybe
take down the
Rapunzel
Smee
costs
here with
more.
the one damage.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
No,
don't know why I was
yeah,
thinking bouncing the
Rapunzel's the
Smee.
only target.
It's
So
just
does he not challenge? It doesn't matter if he challenges or not. Definitely, yep, taking out the Smee here. So maybe he wants me to Candio to go for a trade and then decide to draw cards so he doesn't gain lore this turn. But I still think no matter what DeCandio decides to do, he can't lose this game, right?
I definitely
Doc just
find
drew for
myself.
turn. All right, 2 cards drawn off the Rapunzel. We got a Pete, another Rapunzel, and we're just representing lethal this next turn. Kawa has to Bruno, but there's been 2 inked so far, and he cannot just hard play the Under the Sea. So DeCandio with a game 1 victory, and USA going up, or NA going up 1-0 this game. We'll need it this round. We'll need to make sure we win a lot of our matches for the rest of this round. We are pretty down here for Team NA. But with this victory, I think it's a good momentum swing. And yeah, missing the 1-drop Diablo, I think, was a reason why Kawa wasn't able to kind of maintain any sort of advantage whatsoever. And BD Candio really had the best opening you could imagine, with a 1-drop into a 2-drop into the Lawrence. Or actually, no, he decided to play Piglet and Happy. So he just had a full board early on and inked those Lilos. Didn't feel like he needed it in this matchup, and showed quite a feat, I would say. So kudos to Candio here.
All right. Well, I found my phone, so we got a 10-minute timer, so we'll get those ads set up, hopefully to go off during the shuffling time with the 10-minute delay. Let's hope. Let's hope, chat. Let's let's hope. Yeah, it was a pretty good game. Like I said, it really just depends on if Kawa can play Under the Seas, and DeCandio did everything he could to try to prevent that from happening. He just put such an insane clock on, forcing the Ariel to have to challenge that turn. Because I was like, oh, we don't want to do it. And you're like, well, there's there's Lorthal in play. So you've got to like prevent that from happening.
Yeah, you know, I ran these decks on Inktable last night. Both being on the draw and on the play with both decks on against each other, and it's going to be a really hard game for Kawa to win. He does need to see the right cards. Um, how do you expect this matchup to actually go Kawa's way? What do you think needs to happen here?
Bare necessities to, or like, he needs to not whiff with anything basically. So if he does play a turn 2 Ursula, it needs to like hit like a storm, that like an uninkable song that he draws. Like, I'm assuming DeCandio Mole, well, he might actually keep the storm because he has the Cindy. This is a good hand. This is a good hand, that is for sure. Um but it's tough. He might still get rid of the storm, because if Kawa doesn't play anything on turn 1, um, what is DeCandio going to do? Storm his Cindy? Storm his? I mean, he could storm his Daisy, but most likely Kawa's first character could be an Ursula too, and if that's the case, the storm is not good. And maybe that's what he's going like. Oh, maybe I don't even want this, right? He's only getting rid of the storm. That just shows
I
it's
like that
like,
a lot. I like that a
yeah,
lot. That was a very, very, I
it's
think,
heads
perfect
up.
mulligan. You have exactly what you want. You have ink, you have dock, you have ones and twos.
Yeah, like I was saying, is like the way for Kawa to win is for his things to hit. And this hand doesn't get hit by Bare Necessity. It doesn't get hit by
Two drop
Ursula.
Ursula.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe is it? Did he mole a storm to draw a storm? Like another character
Oof.
and a pretty good curved
That's
character. Like
yes. But we see the one drop Diablo, the shift, the action. Ooh, we're gonna have an actual game here, guys. I like this a lot. And you get a lot of information from this one drop Diablo. He's gonna see that
that
these
happy.
characters are yeah. The happy in there too. The happy is a scary answer. And this
That's
deck doesn't
actually
have Let the Storm Rage On or Strength
yeah.
of a Raging
That's
Fire. You're not able to get rid of that happy. It's going to check the Diablo.
yeah.
Another dock. All right. So I like Daisy here, turn one. Going back to the strat game from game one. No, he's gonna play the happy. I'm sorry. Yeah. You have to play the happy here because of the Diablo. You have to respect it. So that's gonna really like force Kawa to make a decision. If he's going to just net the
You
extra
wanna
card, which I
trade 3 cards for 2 cards?
yeah, he's gonna just want to net the extra card. But he does shift it here and just inks the muses. He might he might hard cast sudden chill. Yeah, that's what he's doing. Why? I don't know. But I think the only card you would want to find after this
I
situation
do.
is the hidden cove.
I do not think he needs to be playing that. Like if he plays that, DeCandio's just gonna have well, what a place for my cam to freeze. DeCandio's just gonna have like a big smile and just discard one of those 2 docks and be like, okay, okay, yeah, did not
Right.
play it. I think Kawa is just teasing us. He needs it for ink. He wants these other things. Like it could be that he forgot for a split second that Happy had evasive for just a second and was like, oh, I'm drawing cards off of Diablo. It doesn't matter, right? But it does matter.
Yeah,
It's
Happy is an excellent check here to Diablo.
honestly, I personally probably would have quested with the 1 drop Diablo and not even shifted and been like, sure, you want to trade Happy with that? I am more than happy to play this Diablo on turn 3 or 4. And like, because if it's going to trade anyways, I might as well keep the extra ink in hand. Um,
I agree. And now he draws another Diablo. So we could see him run out this second Diablo here and decide to quest with the original one. But I'm not too sure if that's the play you want to make. Again, this the longer the game goes, the more it's in Kawa's favor. And if you're going to make the game go longer, you're going to have to force DeCandio to do something. You can't just sit there and go back and forth. He won't mind questing with his 2 lore questers and just playing the rest of the game that way. So I think this is a better line. If you find the Under the Sea, you pretty much threaten the whole board, and there's no answer to that. And like you said, you can't whiff, you can't miss, and you definitely can't see the Simpsons come up in the split second. But for all intents and purposes, that was what was needed here. And he doesn't have enough ink to play that and move the happy, so it might just be a quest with all your glimmers here and see what the daisy nets him. So he gets the Ursula, which is just ink. Happy's gonna actually have to quest here, and Lawrence dodges Under the Sea, and there's no Kita to be worried about. So I think that's a line you take.
yeah, this way you can answer the aerial. Um,
Absolutely.
it's it's quite unfortunate, but he still has the dock. Um, and depending on what he draws, he might just play mine dock or ink the mine, go dock
You
if he draws a third
you
dock.
could play Muses here and return your aerial back, and I like that a lot. A lot.
A lot, yes,
Yeah.
that's
And
a lot.
I think that's the play you make 100% of the time. Um, the deck is pretty much functioning like a toolbox deck, and you want to be a control deck at the same time too. So being able to bounce and replay your characters is what this deck I think is
So
always trying to do.
DeCandio has no discard. I'm still kind of. I need to try to remember to ask Kawa why he shifted that Diablo.
We got notes that we're taking over here, boys. Don't worry. But the card drawn off the Diablo draw was the Cricky, and if it's any card to find, it's a card that literally says I can get rid of your location in one swing, and the the Ursula 2 drop might be something to consider keeping now. I like having a bunch of little guys on the board and then slamming down a Cricky because you get to kind of have a bunch of buff characters for a turn. And he's thinking about playing the Dock and the Mine, and and then that will threaten the Diablo, so it will force the Cricky. So who knows? Does he actually discard the Dock and draw two? I think is what he's thinking. And yeah, he doesn't want to do that and give Diablo free card draw. All right, you're welcome here, and I still don't know how I feel about this card in the deck, but it could come up being able to remove the Seven Dwarfs Mine. What do you expect Kawa to do here? Because if he does play Cricky, both characters have to go into the mine, and that leaves his muses open to a a challenge from the Lawrence.
So I think the fact that he played Doc without drawing tells me he has a Doc. So I'm like not necessarily too against singing the song, but no. Yeah, I think this is fine. It is unfortunate if Lawrence takes out our muses, but the Cricky just then finishes off the Lawrence, and I think we care way like our hand as Kawa is just absurd.
Mm-hmm. We did find a strength here, and that can answer the Diablo. You can decide to sing it with Lawrence and then draw two with Doc, safely avoiding the Diablo triggers here, but gives up the option to remove the muses. So it's not what we're going to do. Muses is too important of a card, and you got to take every opportunity you have to remove warded characters in this deck. And this is also, I think, an okay option. You still have the Doc for the next turn, and we're gonna see him quest with it too. But yeah, the Lawrence gets traded in for free with the Cricky, and you have muses now and can sing Bruno. So
Top decking and other muses is pretty good.
yeah, muses is I think going to be a very important card for Kawa in this matchup. Being able to bounce daisies, piglets, happies. You can't run out of removal.
So something DeCandio is going to have to get used to, and other people, is I don't know if you noticed, but he readied all of his ink at the end of turn. And we're not going to be able to do that. There's more and more character abilities coming into play that basically say when this comes into play, do something. And there's cards like Mufasa, and there's just more things like that interacting that eventually it's just going to be like, no, you're supposed to leave them exerted because we don't know what could happen. Like, there very well could be a card that's like, banish target character an opponent controls, they reveal the top card of their deck if it's a character put into play exerted, right? Like imagine like a 2 cost card that does that, like a super cheap removal with like the ability for a very bad drawback to occur. Um, and if that happens, like what if they put an Ana into play, right? So like eventually we're going to always have to keep it exerted. Ooh, yep. Here
Exactly.
comes the Cricky cleanup.
Yes. So yeah, good point
Oh,
there, Luke. Oh yeah, when I saw him hit the sudden chill off the aerial, I knew what was happening. You predicted the Dock was in the hand, and so the cards were going Kawa's way here this game for sure. He found the Shift Diablo, he found Aerial, found Under the Sea, got to play the game, and this is looking like it will go Kawa's way. But one thing I've realized about the Lemon Lime Song deck is that it has a slow winning game clock, and it takes about a few turns to do it. So there's
Yeah,
not enough lore on B DeCandio's side, I think, to be able to capitalize on that. But
I thought this game was over when that happy was there, but that top decked under the sea slash the under the sea found off of the aerial was just so good.
yes, Muse is coming into play here. You're just going to sing Bruno, bounce back the aerial. If we have an ink this turn, we can ink and replay the aerial,
I think we would play the dock or
the
uh,
Diablo.
the Diablo if we haven't inked yet. Like, because we want to get that online, and we have 7 ink, so we can afford to play the aerial and grab whatever threat we find out we need. Because we want to have max information before we play a card like the aerial. It's getting
Good,
really close to
good point.
scoop phase for DeCandio.
All right,
Well,
Pluto. Pluto was like very good draw, but I think with Ariel being able to find cards like we don't talk about Bruno, it poses a major threat. Ariel here is going to find I if, even what's the card? Painting the roses red wouldn't be the worst here because you
it's a
can
song.
you can
Any
it's a
song.
song, but it also allows you to bounce back your own characters. So you can like quest with it, bounce it, replay it. You can reduce the cost of the cricky to bounce it back, which I like a lot. But an under the sea found here means any sort of top deck dock into two more little guys doesn't really help them. He's inking the Ursula, which is interesting. I don't know if he would want to play it just to have the body and make that countdown go a lot quicker. You might not want to quest with the Cricky here because the Pluto definitely covers it, but who knows?
He might just so the Pluto gets eaten by the under the sea. So
True,
it's like, yeah,
true.
you can take out my Cricky, but yeah. I mean,
And,
but if we're DeCandio, we're just going to top deck the Rapunzel right here for all of
but
North
he's okay.
America.
He's got to be okay with that. We got a Diablo to say, "Hey,
Did
you
he?
draw three, me
He
too."
just instantly does it? Oh, I thought like
Oh,
he had me. I thought he had it. I definitely
he
thought
knows
he
how to
had it.
sell. He knows how to sell. That's for sure. We don't need. Oh, the key to that's the writing on the wall if I've ever seen it.
Wow.
It's the Kita. I think you play the Kita here. I don't think you have a
I
reason
don't
not to.
know. I don't know, Zach. I don't know. Adding more lore, completely wiping your opponent's board, returning the aerial to your hand. I don't agree with this play. I don't know.
I don't agree with returning the aerial at this point. You got to, I mean, if you're doing the math on the lore, you're going to gain
Or you're
one.
just replaying it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just infinite value.
Bruno.
I think he like it just like locks it in. You have the Diablo, so you might as well. Like at this point, I think every single song he plays, he's going to be bouncing that aerial and replaying it. It's just like pure advantage.
Yeah, and the cards are being scooped up on DeCandio's side. So if you're just joining us, this was game 2 of the series, and the game score is now tied up 1-1. But Baby DeCandio gets to go first, and we saw cards like Happy, and we saw cards like Seven Dwarves Mine, and I think being on the play is very scary for Kawa. So the Surhis, I think, always gets eaten up by the mine. I think that card's hard to really stick on the board against that deck. And the Daisy doesn't even kill Daisy. That's always been my biggest worry about Surhis. Even when you move it to the Cove, it just doesn't feel right. Um, what I would think Kawa would like to find, is that 2-drop Ursula. Not even finding a song isn't the worst, but having a little bit of a body could help. And you probably still want to find the Shift Diablo so your Ariel and Diablo can sing Under the Sea as soon as possible. That needs to happen. What else do you need to go for DeCandio's favor? Because I can just imagine a low curve and you're perfectly time removal. But what else?
So he didn't keep the Storm Cindy uh, in the last game, when he was on the draw, which it's interesting. He like it might be something worth keeping. Like that's how these games are interesting when you have the Ursulas. It's like if he has the Ursula on turn two, it's absurd. Otherwise, it's not. So like when I played Emerald Steel in Atlanta, the mirror match, I was always mulliganing away my songs, and my opponents weren't yet. People just weren't on to that idea yet. But if I thought if I didn't realize that they weren't on it, like if we were both on that idea, them not doing it could be beneficial. Like uh because if I think they're mulling their songs away, I don't play my Ursula on turn two, then they get to keep their songs, right? So it's like this weird third layer type thing where it's like DeCandio was mulling in a manner to not get punished by something, and Kawa didn't draw that thing and instead drew the opposite, which punished him for playing around the first play, right? So it's just
Mm-hmm.
like it's a trap for better players sometimes. And sometimes it's just like, well, it doesn't matter if it's a trap. You have to do it because one blowout's bigger than the other, right? It's like, sure, he didn't have the Ursula 2, but I still had cards to play. And then he didn't draw the removal top decks until it was too late, right? He drew them after the Under the Sea, like before he could take care of the Diablo or the Ariel, which are both very easily answered with DeCandio's removal suite.
Yes, the mind games that are added to this is extraordinary, and it even starts to surface more where we see a list that played no Ursula two drop, but I couldn't help but think that in a closed deckless format, you would always play around the two drop Ursula. You're always putting away your songs, so we're getting to this point where you're removing cards that people would expect you to play because they're going to play around it anyway. And I love that about this game. So we're getting started in the third and final game. Be DeCandio's hand, pre-mulligan. I'm not seeing what we were talking about wanting to find outside of the Seven Dwarves mine, but you got no one drop, and I think that's what's needed, right? He's got to find the one drop. So we have four uninkables, and I don't know how many you can risk keeping.
It's I don't think you can risk the Rapunzel even, sadly. Like you want to, but you can't.
Right,
Oh, oh,
and it's a
that's a good hand, I think.
that's what you would love to see as an Amber Seal enjoyer, an Amber Steel goon, and this happy I think is an incredible inclusion in the mine decks. Checking Diablo, being able to put damage on the genie and finishing it off, I think is super crucial. So I'm a big fan. So if you guys are here from the Lorcana Goon side, and you're on our market watches, get your foil happies, guys. Get your foil knights.
Yeah, it's interesting. I bought foil mines and happies very early because I played with the mine at the pre-release, and I drafted knights, and I was like, wow, this is like insanely powerful and limited, like, and kind of well costed. Let's try it and construct it. I'm gonna at least build a seven dwarves knight deck for fun, right? And it wasn't good. But I did buy foil of those, and because I looked through and I was like, man, there's just not very many good foil knights. I mean, obviously Doc is insane. Big fan of Doc. I've
Right,
invested some money in Doc, and that's paid off for me, I think, pretty well.
right.
But yeah, you really need to, if you're gonna jump on the foil bandwagon, you have to buy them early and cheap
That's a
before they
good
spike
point.
up.
That's a good point. And there's some characters that you wouldn't expect to be knights that are knights. I know the Pie Slinger Donald
That's a
Duck
good
is a
hand.
knight. The Anna Truehearted is a knight, but none of these cards are in either player's decks. We're seeing an inked Strength of a Raging Fire, and we have a decision to make with our turn one. Do we play Cindy or do we play Happy?
I think we interesting. I guess he's probably going to ink. So he
The
inked
Strength?
one strength, so he's probably then going to ink the next strength and then ink the Cindy, and that's his game plan.
He
It's one
might
game
play the
plan.
mine on turn 2, like you mentioned previously, to be able to shoot down anything on turn 3. It's like
Yep.
it does 2 damage to things already, but it doesn't go away,
Oh yeah.
and that might happen. So 1 drop Diablo, we get to see the hand,
It could
and
be so so he plays the happy instead of the Cindy, right? So if he played Cindy, there's a world that Kawa doesn't play the Diablo because he knows it can just get shot down highly, and then he like plays a more conservative game where he inks the Diablo, he inks the Sir Hiss, and he tries to rely on the aerial and the dad blast. But playing the happy incentivizes the same play pattern as last game, where
exactly,
yep, so he's gonna ink that, he's gonna ink the storm to play around Ariel or Ursula, the
exactly.
squid with Ariel's voice. And he'll play the mine because he's and like so this kind of baited it, right? Because now Kawa can't just sit with it and play, and he
Oh,
has the dock in
exactly.
hand too. So as long as he doesn't accidentally play into this dad blast, but the Pete draw, I think prevents that. Like I'm assuming next turn he inks Cindy, plays Pete. Next turn inks one of the 2 cards, plays Smee and Doc, and maybe refreshes. Although that's kind of scary because if you play Doc directly into, they just dad blast away the cards you draw. So I'm interested
Yeah.
to see how he plays out his next few turns.
So we saw Kawa find Prince John, which is a character I don't think he found at all in his previous games. And in my little testing I did last night, this card was pivotal in closing out some of the characters like Mr. Smee and Lawrence and Pluto in combination with the Bruno. But getting the draws of every discard, I think, is crucial. If they get stuck with cards that they wanted to need to discard with Doc, you're drawing cards off of that too. So it might come down, or we will might see the Ariel come down on the following turn. I'm not too sure if we play that Diablo here. It's gonna get shot down by the mine, but
Yeah,
I
we're not
like his
shifting yet.
decision to
I
play the Sir Hiss tier 2. It does allow
I
him to
really
diversify the decision.
I really hope he doesn't shift. I'm assuming he's playing Sir Hiss to be like, well, let's hope you don't have any other dwarves, and he's just hoping that he moves the happy there.
Oh, we see a clap from DeCandio. I wonder what that means. Kawa's facial reaction can maybe tell us a little bit of
I'm
the
I'm
story.
I'm listening right now, and he was saying something
Oh,
about like if you're happy and you know it because he has the happy in play.
DeCandio is a corny guy, and I am here for it. I love it. He's
Whoa!
shifting the Diablo. What? So clap your hands again, DeCandio, because I'd be happy if I were you. I'd be
I
very
mean,
happy about.
yeah, he
Why
gets to
did you
draw a
do this?
card. He's just trying to take out the mine as fast as he
You have,
can.
and you just discarded
But this
under the
is
sea.
but this is I think this was quite the issue because now he could literally just move happy to the mine, shoot Sir Hiss, and then just trade the happy with the Diablo.
Exactly. And so if he does decide, uh,
Whoa.
wait.
Interesting.
Whoa.
Kawa also was a little surprised with that play.
I'm not too sure what's going on right now because that Sir Hiss is still in play.
He
It
probably
would
just
have
doesn't care.
maybe he's just understanding that
So,
he can shoot it down by moving any character into the mine,
yes.
just not just a knight. But
And he's
I
like,
don't
if
know
you
about this
want to trade
decision.
with it, if you want to trade your thing, whatever. And he's just like, deal. If you want to put my mine at 5 damage, I don't care. Like, because all of the characters with ward that he can't take out before they trade with mine, those characters all he once exerted so he can challenge them down, right? It's a little scary. He is running out of resources, but at the same time, Kawa, like, I think Kawa's gonna have to ink Bruno and then probably play John, and then hope to draw an inkable next turn so he can ink and play Dad Blast and draw 2 cards, or if DeCandio has a Pete, which he plays 4 of. We know he does, but if he does, he still has the aerial, play the aerial, draw an inkable, and ink that. If he doesn't hit an inkable, or if a Pete comes down, he still has alternate plays. It's unfortunate for Kawa, but I think that's the out. He might also just play the Diablo and be like, hey, you don't have. Like, if he goes Diablo and then trades in. Okay, here we go. We're going for the aerial over it. He's not going to go for the Dad Blast line.
It's all right. We like to go gambling here, and he chose to ink the Bruno too. Um, yeah, this aerial is going to make DeCandio believe he might play the Pete here. I think the Pete might come down, but we have the ability to sing with Cindy, damage the aerial, move Cindy to the mine, get rid of the aerial. Happy can then challenge into the Surhis. This might be where DeCandio wanted to be right now. And we're going to be drawing for turn a Piglet, the Almighty Pig.
The
Piglet is not a knight, I don't think, right? It's just
the problem is, I think DeCandio is going to lose his hand now. But that is a very good draw. So he could play that mine,
move it over, go back and forth.
DeCandio's going to lose his hand, and it's, well, I guess
next
he's not
level,
lose those whole
next
hands.
level play, ink pass, play around Dad Blast, right?
Maybe. I think the mine is still worth it.
Yeah, and Kawa's shaking his head. I don't think he wants to be in this position. He's forced to make a decision here. If he gives up his turn to rip DeCandio's cards out of his hand, then he's giving up the ability to do anything to the rest of the board. And he's playing Prince John.
He has to
like
play
I
the
said,
Prince John first, for sure. Like,
yeah.
So if he rips DeCandio's hand, Prince John is dead.
That's true.
And with double mine in play, he can still deal 2 damage to. Man, that's an insane
this
turn.
is that's a disgusting move right here.
Into
Finding
another
the
Pete.
other Pete. You know, when it's your day, it's your day. And I have to admit, this one is looking like it's the DeCandio's. But the next card here could change it. Muses. This was an important card in the second game for Kawa. And he understands its role now. Do you get rid of this mine? Or do you just say it doesn't matter because you have warded characters on play? Like, you don't know the Pete's in DeCandio's hand here. So you're thinking that there's just a world where you can find the cards needed later on to deal with the mines. It's getting those 2 passive lore return, but he's not representing too much, but it's going to start picking up a lot sooner than later. The Happy for turn, I think, is an interesting card, being another knight.
There wasn't even, like, he could have. I guess he couldn't even have sang a song to bounce. So yeah, I don't think he even takes down the mine. I think he just has to hope that he hits another warded singer, and then Under the Sea and Akita. Like, he has ways to not lose this game. There's just not very many, and this Pete and Happy is,
and it's. I love that Kawa has his face here. I'm loving the reactions. You know, we do get to ask him why he's deciding to shift Diablo. I also think we have to ask DeCandio why he didn't do the Surhis takedown play.
Yeah, Kawa definitely wants to know that too. Although, based on what happened in this game, I think we found out why he didn't.
Right.
He just
now. Are you trading into the Cindy with the Muses? I don't think you can risk giving up your whole board.
We have to.
You can't. Yeah, you can't play an action.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Goes up to 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 18. The mines are going to gain the 2.
He has to hope that DeCandio doesn't empty his hand and or play he needs to hope this doesn't happen.
Well,
Now the
yeah,
game's over.
he's shooting it down. Yep, it's not going to happen.
Now he can take down one mine, but he can't do everything else.
Can draw 2 cards all you want. He's leaving the 2 cards in his hand to be discarded.
Had a timer set to do ads, but I think the game went so fast that I think we can be lucky and skip that ad block.
For all those watching that have Twitch Prime or is subscribed to the lovely Twitch channel, it can still be with us during these ad breaks. The game is going in B DeCandio's favor 100% of the time here, and there wasn't a card I think Kawa could have drawn to really help him, even if he just
Yep.
rips both of these cards out of the hand. He decides not to play the sudden chill first, knowing muses can bounce back and still have 2 cards to rip afterwards. But he finds an aerial, but you can't sing Under the Sea. You can't do anything about getting rid of the locations. There's too much lore in play. He just wants to see the cards on top of his deck, and I don't blame him.
Yeah. It's not a good spot. Looks like DeCandio is going to be taking another one down for North America.
Right, and the game will end there. We're going to have our ability to interview the players in just a moment, but the game is sort of like there was some interesting decisions made by both these players for sure, and I'm very very much wondering if we're going to have we're going to be able to understand why these players made these decisions. And who knows, it could just be because it's early for them. Kawa just got off of work, and not everyone's able to really think about all the decisions in the moment. We can see it objectively and being from the third person point of view, but to be able to think of all these plays in the moment is easier said than done, for sure.
All right. Let's. Yeah, I can hear you. Zach, you should unmute yourself so you can hear and chit chat.
All right. Good games, guys.
Your Twitch channel? Are you sure?
What?
Should be.
Oh, I was saying, is your OBS turned on for audio from your desktop?
Yes.
Okay.
It should be good. It's happened a few times. We're recording Discord sounds right now.
Gotcha.
So we had a couple of questions.
Sure.
Do you have the first one written down, Zach? Was it Oh yes. You can ask though if you want.
All right, Kawa, I got a question for you, but first off, I want to say good games from both of you guys. We love being able to cast amazing players and playing amazing games. But Kawa, you shifted the Diablo turn 2, game 2 with a happy in play. Can you go into what made you make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I shifted the Diablo because, I looked at the hands. There was no removal for the moment. I knew by shifting the Diablo, it would only come into his 2 ink turns. So there's not much that he could have done. So I didn't find much harm in just actually shifting the Diablo and having it there already. So yeah, there was no real advantage because I wasn't going to quest with it, but it was just to kind of get the body on board. And yeah, it set up pretty well because then I had the Diablo and the aerial. If the Diablo doesn't get interacted with, then it's just going to be sitting there ready for the aerial under the sea play. So there wasn't much reason to it. There's probably a fair argument to just not do it, but you might be able to remember more, Brennan, but I don't think I did a turn. I think I shifted the Diablo and that was it. So I think I just decided I'd rather do that to get the 3 cost card down, rather than literally just do nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
You
Yeah,
almost
I think you
played the sudden chill. You almost
Yeah,
played
yeah,
the
yeah.
sudden chill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I guess the argument is that you can just make the shift line the following turn for the same cost without maybe discarding a different card. But yeah, it definitely opened you up to not too much on that specific turn from my perspective. There's no
Yeah,
Cinderella
yeah.
to sing, so like as long as you knew at the following turn that you're probably going to do it, which I couldn't really quest into your Diablo because if you have Paint the Roses or Cove, then like I just get eaten, so like I have to leave mine on upright
Yep.
into that exchange. And I was definitely afraid of Under the Sea on that turn. I think I drew the mine the turn after turn 2 at down turn 3, so I couldn't like play it on turn 2 to threaten Diablo in any way. So like that was a little bit hiccup. I played 2 daisies instead. But yeah,
You drew the rages basically the turns after they could
Under
have
the
done
Sea, yeah.
anything. That
Yeah,
is how
and
it goes
happens.
sometimes. And then the other question was for DeCandio, correct? I do believe that was my mind went blank. We had the it Kawa's facial expression also during this part. You decided not to trade your happy with the Diablo.
The
You
Diablo.
decided
Oh,
to shoot
yeah, yeah.
the happy
Mhm.
instead of shooting the hiss and trading.
Yeah.
Did you want to explain why? I mean, I think we kind of realized why based on your next few turns plays, but if you want to go through your thoughts there.
Yeah, so it's the exchanges I can take on a following turn, and he can take on his turn the same way. The downside is him singing something, but like it's just a sudden chill would be the only thing I could really sing that mattered in that situation, really. I figured the only games I was going to lose from that like position was when he played like a 3 into abuses into something else. So like there was no room for him to play a 1 cost card to really challenge the location at any point. So like it being on 5, it was functionally the same as like 4 for me in a lot of ways. And I feel like I just wanted the extra couple of points of lore. Is how I felt at it. I knew I could take the trade and exchange things, but also if I happen to draw another mine, which I ended up doing at some point, but that was after the happy had traded like the following turn. But I just wanted the extra, I think, lore there. I didn't really care about the 3 extra points on that from that point because again, if he like goes like any other, if he doesn't play essentially an Aerial or a Diablo or a Prince John on turn 3, and only one of those he kind of wants to challenge with, not even that much, like the Diablo. I guess Diablo is the example. If he doesn't play one of those next turn, like I feel like I'm going to win anyway. Whereas that just can't put the last point that I can just make, that change next turn for with the same kind of moving of the mine if I needed to, or just trading the happy. But yeah, just the one lore.
Okay.
I think it makes sense, yeah, looking back on it, because I think it makes perfect sense when you say that, yeah, your mind being on 5 is basically doesn't really matter because I never really want to be trading. I think at the time I
Yeah.
was like, oh, you're letting me just hit your mind for 3, but essentially it doesn't really matter that much, right? So
And you
yeah.
have
Yeah,
the
it's
Storm and Cindy as well, so like you're able to then commit more characters and then sing the next turn.
I think I drew the storm the next turn when I played this Indy. I think the turn I drew the storm. Maybe that was
You
the
didn't
turn
play
before.
Cindy on that same turn. I thought you
I played on
moved
turn
and
3.
played.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I moved to play
Yeah,
Cindy, and I had the
because you're
storm drawn
yeah,
that turn. Yeah,
yeah. And
I
that's
guess the
why
turn.
I was saying to Brennan, yeah, I think my misplay was I had the John in hand, so I regret not play. I played the Ariel instead of playing the John. I think if I played the John, I mean, granted, he had the 2 mines in the end, so it wouldn't have mattered too much. But I think even just playing the John would have been maybe okay because there's the one to finish off the mines. Sure, I never really want to attack with my John, but then there's the opportunity for me to do John into You've Forgotten Me. But either way, it's like, do I play around one thing or the other? He could have just went Pete, and then I wasn't gonna get much advantage out of that. But
Yeah,
like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we were discussing your lines, and we're like, well, he has uh, he's probably going to ink the Bruno, and then my
Mhm,
thought was that you would play John, and then next turn, if you drew an ink, then you Dad Blast. If you don't draw an ink, you can
mhm,
play, or if you don't draw an ink or he plays Pete, you can play Ariel to then either
mhm.
look for the ink or just do something because of the
sure.
Pete. And then you
Yeah,
played
yeah,
the
yeah.
Ariel, and I was like, well, he's smarter than me, so we'll see what he's doing.
Oh
Um,
no, I'm definitely not. Don't worry. Yeah.
It's just a judgment call, right? Like you just making
yeah.
them over and over again in this game. It's like playing the odds on certain card effects happening, and maybe it's better for me to like him play the Aerial to prompt a Pete in some ways, so that I guess I gotta have Storm too with this Indian play in the mine. But that's what ended up happening. But like him making me use my Pete's earlier is pretty good for him trying to set up like Kyoto turns with Under the Sea to sweep the board. It's like because like me timing Pete is kind of crucial in this game if it can happen. Obviously, succession is great, but at the perfect time is just kind of backbreaking. I think I messed up on that last turn. I think I didn't need to um, I think I could have played out
One of
another
them.
character at the end. Because if he makes you discard 2, it doesn't actually matter, and he can't actually under the sea me, so I probably could just play the Calhoun.
Yeah.
But like I also thought that if he played You Have Forgotten Me, I could not lose, so it didn't really matter then either.
Yeah, it's like you're
Yeah.
influencing him to make the play that wins you the game, right? And it looks
Yeah.
too good not to take. And then
I
at
mean,
least I think I saw that with like a you had the Kawa had a Muses exerted and you had a Lawrence in play, and we're like Kawa just needs him to trade so the game goes on longer because this was during game one,
yeah.
and it looked like a very rough game the whole way out. You didn't see a one drop. The
Yeah.
early start from DeCandio I think sealed the deal there. But if Candio, may I ask, there was decisions you chose to ink Lilo, and Luke and I were talking about maybe keeping it in hand against discard decks as a like a free discard.
Nah.
Did you? No, don't think it was worth it.
No, that's not what Lilo's for. Lilo is just a card that's good against Be Prepared. Like, to think it's a free card to discard in most matchups is kind of silly, I think. It's
I
just
think
there
you'd
to be
rather just
easier.
ink the card,
The
right? Yeah.
turn that I had mentioned it, you had inked it, but you kept 2 cards in hand, and there was like a world that he could have made you discard it or discarded 1 card based off a song. And my thought process
Sure.
was that if you're going to end up inking the Lawrence to play Doc possibly next turn, that maybe keeping the Lilo so if he does hit you with the discard, it gives you like a point of advantage. But we also discussed that like Lilo's also not very good here because under the sea's the board wipe, right? And
Yeah.
Lilo's not good there. So it was like,
And Lawrence checks that. Like, yeah, my only concern
yeah,
at that point is under the sea. Like, even if I spend all this time discarding it, bringing it back, then he's under the seas, and it was like, well, that was kind of pointless. Where like Lawrence, he actually has to have something else as well to deal with. So yeah, I don't really value Lilo very highly in matchups that don't involve Be Prepared really, but it's fine to play because it's still just a 2 lore character that you just play out and is good sometimes and is good when you're trying to race and trade and force them to like essentially you spend some ink, they lose some lore, kind of how it turns out to be most of the time. But yeah, it, Leo's good. I mean, it just sometimes it's ink and that's fine.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons she's good is that she's
Yeah,
inkable. Like,
you could say that about 90% of the cards in this game.
well, are 90% of the cards inkable in this game?
Sure, probably
I don't actually know what the percentages are,
the ratios
but
are. Yeah,
the way people play, it does feel like it. People do not like to play more than 10 uninkable cards in their decks, and then we're out here pushing like 17, 18. How
That's
many
the
are you
thing,
on
though.
today?
I'm on 16, so
I think most decks right now in the, I mean, maybe not most decks, but if you want to look at like green purple as an example, yeah, I think a lot of them are on 16 uninkables, and I think some of the cards in that deck are so powerful that like that's the numbers you should be pushing. But also like you're a deck like green purple, you're drawing so
So
many
many
cards
cards.
anywheres that you shouldn't really be getting bricked too much. If you get to at least 4 ink, you should be fine. But
yeah.
like
I mean, that's
yeah.
why the whole new world list could run higher uninkables because you're just drawing a new hand when you have 3 or 4 ink in play. So you don't really miss your
Hmm.
drops. So it's like if you can create that type of card advantage or scenario, which is why some of these dock lists I find myself playing a higher on ink count because I'm dropping my hand and doing it. Not necessarily DeCandio's list because he's playing a few more higher ends. He's less hyper aggro and more just like aggressive. It's hard not to call the deck hyper aggro. I guess it is running Daisy Duck, Piglet, and Lilo, but he also
Yeah.
has some like mid range aspects to it as well.
Aggressive control deck almost.
Yeah,
Aggro. I
it's
mean, there's some disruptive elements. I think Pete lets it be categorized as aggro control. Sure,
yeah,
that's about it.
it's
But
it's
I guess Cindy Storm
basically
plus Pete's. Yeah,
it's Steel Song when you don't draw the aerials of Whole New
It's a bunch of
Worlds.
good stuff, right? It's a good stuff deck.
Delver. Sure.
Where's my mana leak? Well, you both did fantastic. Played your outs even when your deck was like, no, not this game. So well played. And hopefully we'll see some more. We have another round for you
Yeah.
two, and
Yep.
let's see if North America can try to claw its way back to an even matchup. I think even if North America wins the rest of this round, they're still down a match.
I think we're down
But
That's
five
fine.
three. We'd be down 5-3 in the best case scenario right now, right?
I have no idea, but I believe you. And
I also
yeah, I
have
mean,
no idea. Yeah.
we'll believe you then, Zach.
I think I'm not confident, so I'm going off my thoughts. But yeah, no, excellent gameplay, guys. It was a pleasure to be able to watch and cast. Also, thank you guys, thank you judges so much for just being
Oh,
willing
yeah.
to put your time out there. Thank you, Ellie, and thank you, Phil. It's just incredible the amount of time you guys have to dedicate for this, and we really do appreciate it because we know everyone has their own lives back at home.
Yeah, doing all of the hard lifting so things run smoothly. Like from running one of those events early, not through the LCC, but through the ICL where we didn't have judges, and like an issue occurs where like we notice something, and it's kind of rough there. All right, DeCandio and Kawa, thanks again. You two, is there any shout outs to social media or anything? I know DeCandio 07 is his thing everywhere. Any shout outs,
Yeah.
yes,
Kawa?
Yeah, I was just gonna say thanks for the game, DeCandio. It was a pleasure.
yeah, always.
Thanks to the judges and everything. And yeah, I'm excited. I'll give a shout out to the audience. If anyone's going to be at the European Championship this weekend, feel
Oh
free
yeah.
to come up and say hi.
Can't wait to see all of the selfies from you guys.
Hmm.
That's gonna be cool.
Awesome. I'm going to pop off, guys, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.